All right. Yeah. So welcome everyone. So agenda, or this first 5-10 minutes was just kind of intros, and then we're just going to explain a bit about, for those people who don't know what Apache is, what it is, what it means for the project. So so hopefully we'll talk through some slides that will give some ideas there, and then some at least thoughts on the roadmap. But hint, this is where it's pretty open to suggestion, and it's rather it's going to be community driven. So community contributions are going to have to drive it. In terms of intro, so I'm Stefan, one of the creators of Hamilton, created while at Citrix, but otherwise we're doing. Elijah and I were both doing a startup, and then we are now at Salesforce. We've been right now the span of stuff I've been thinking about is spans the gamut of how do you make agents work, and so that spans across a little bit of Hamilton and a little bit of Burr in terms of our projects. But Elijah.
Hey, Elijah here. I'm co-creator of Hamilton and Burr with Stefan. It was great working on it at a startup, and now that we are been acquired by a bigger company, opens up a little bandwidth, and we get to sort of go with the Apache vision. So I'm super excited about that. Think about most of the same stuff with Stefan. We're working very closely, and a lot of it's representing agents as graphs, understanding sort of how to model these data flows in a way that's both very controlled and also leaves a lot of flexibility to AI. So all sort of stems nicely from this.
Yeah. Did anyone else want to intro else? Your name, Frank. We'll get you. We'll have you say some words at once we get to the PMC slide. But otherwise, thanks, Leonard, for introducing yourself earlier. That was helpful to try to put some names or to some of the help questions in Slack. Let's see. So this is where Apache Hamilton, right? So now the name of Hamilton is not Hamilton. It is now can be called Apache Hamilton. And so we see, we think this is a pretty big milestone for Hamilton, right? We're almost at 1 million downloads. There's a lot of companies that are using it, building on top of it, building libraries on top of it, because it's just a pretty good way to model various types of DAG-based problems. And so by becoming an Apache project, right? Becoming an Apache project means quite a few things. The first thing is the Apache Software Foundation is the thing that now owns Hamilton. What is the Apache Software Foundation? It is a nonprofit dedicated to focusing on open source software. It helps provide support and structures. So, for example, like the GitHub CI stuff, like Apache kind of handles and takes care of and pays for, and makes sure that there's infrastructure and like website and a few other things there. And so one of the things to note is Apache has what are called top level projects. So these are projects that are graduated, and they're like, okay, you guys are on your own. But then for anything that wants to get in, you have this incubating period, which can last anywhere, I guess, a year to a couple of years. And effectively, it's just, you have a bunch of mentors who are trying to help you graduate the project to a top level. In terms of, how projects at a high level, I'm going to reinforce this, is, work at Apache is that they are governed by meritocracy and kind of community consensus, because, the Apache is vendor neutral. So one of the things, as opposed to some foundations, right? Not to point fingers at the Linux Foundation or anything, but there is you can't kind of buy necessarily the project or kind of sway it, right? The projects are meant to be very vendor neutral, right? And because they're community driven, and they want the software to flourish and live a long, prosperous life. Any questions on the Apache Software Foundation, if anyone has any? I'm not the most informed expert, but I do know of it. So in terms of becoming an incubating project, right? So as I said, this is a process that they require every project to go through, and some projects graduate and some projects don't. In terms of what we get, right, is that the Apache Software Foundation have a very specific, way of doing things, and like have so in terms of governing the project, running it, and doing releases and updates and a few other things, right, and even like forming communities and doing it. And so by becoming a project, we kind of benefit from this guidance. We have 3 mentors who we can kind of ask questions to, who have been in various Apache open source projects, right? And so to help us kind of guide us through this transition and process to, their goal is to get us to graduate and become a top level project. But the key to all this, right, is not Elijah and myself. We can't be the ones driving this. Like this is a community driven thing. So really, the success of Hamilton being an Apache project, it depends on community kind of involvement and support. Because without that, that's it's not really kind of an Apache project. Questions? All right. Yeah, feel free to just interrupt. In terms of incubation, right? So we had to create applications, right? And so this is where they were super excited with the strength of community we already have, and so part of it is I think we have already been running Hamilton with a pretty I want to say meritocratic type approch without we haven't had to say no to many PRs or anything, right? We've been very trying to get people started with the project and the community and kind of get them to contribute. So we were aligned, I think, pretty much there with values. In terms of, this is me just, I guess, reiterating a little bit of what I said on the previous slides, but effectively, the goal is we need to create releases in the Apache approved manner, right? Have the community contributions and things come in such that we have releases happen at a regular cadence, and then what that then leads to is a self-sustaining project effectively, and so that way I think for anyone who wants to invest into Hamilton, right, this is a good thing because should something happen to me and Elijah, right, there's a community, there's PMC, there's other people who can continue to run the project, right, and so what I want is for every Hamilton user to not be worried about the future of the project. And so this is where through this incubation phase, part of my task with Elijah and myself is to bring more people. So we have the starting kind of a project management committee, which I'll kind of get to, but this is really the task is to grow and get other people. So we're not the only ones who have to sign off on pull requests. We can have other people do it and do merges. And so this is where your feedback is required. So in terms of community engagement and things you want to see, right, this is where as I said, meritocratic. So if you want to help contribute and start things when we're going to be eager to see what you can help with. Anything to add? All right. So how do projects actually run? So Apache, each project has what's called a project management committee or a PMC, and this committee is effectively, the council, so to speak, that provides the project kind of direction and strategy, helps oversee who becomes part of, who gets committed and merge rights on the repo type thing. And this is where the meritocratic kind of values, right? It is we, Apache strongly, the way that it runs projects is the people who get there are the people who contribute to the project, right? And so, so this is where if you are super interested in getting more involved, then the pathway is through contribution, and that's how this is where that's the general process, as I understand it, in terms of getting into this PMC role, so you can have a larger say. Elijah, anything you want to mention about PMC?
No, I mean, I just the more people involved, the more people think about the direction of the project, the better direction we can go in. I think partially it's so that we're not on the critical path and blocking it, but partially it's so we can get a wealth of views. I mean, Stefan and I are now both working for the same company. We have the same sort of perspective, but the whole reason of bringing everybody in is because everybody has a different use case, and we need to build something that works for a whole bunch of use cases. So the more people we can get involved in actually developing and actually thinking out the direction, the happier everybody will be. So love to bring it on board.
Yeah, and so on that, like, Hamilton has a lot of surface area, and it's very apparent when going through some of the. I mean, some people call it bureaucracy of the Apache process to release, and so one of the things we still haven't had an Apache release, which I'll kind of get to, but there is, I think, we built something healthy and large, and there is a lot of surface area. So this is where, if you're interested in making the VS Code extension work better, then please, help us make it better, for example. So.
Also, in planning for something larger like Hamilton 2.0, which will be don't have concrete plans for it, but like a lot of ideas. That's where really bringing people in to sort of that's where we have a chance to narrow and focus the surface area as well. So, something to think about.
Yeah. So in terms of the PMCs, this is where it's it's not anything secret or anything. As I'll get to, a lot of Apache's processes like transparency. And so I'll get to how you can kind of see that. But the PMCs, myself, Elijah, Gary, Yerne, Charles, and Ryan. So we got Yerne and Ryan here. If you guys wanted to pop up and say hi, and actually, and Yerne, let me know what I should update your affiliation to. I just put PhD student, but
No, Yerne got a new job, right?
Yeah. I'm actually working on making AI safe. So
nice.
Startup in London, dealing with formal verification of machine learning models. Still a PhD student, so it's not completely untrue.
Yeah, but otherwise, Yerne has contributed quite a lot to Hamilton with respect to some of the Ray adapter stuff. I forget what else, but this is where there's Yerne's done some sizable, actually some decorator stuff. That's right. So Ryan.
Yeah, hey everybody. I'm Ryan Witten. I'm currently the director of ML data engineering at DAGWorks-Inc. So mainly focused around the feature engineering use cases of Hamilton. I've been using Hamilton, almost 2 years now, I think. So contributed a few async improvements and minor things there, but excited to be on the committee now.
Yeah, so this is where I remember having discussions with Ryan, for example, as to what to do with the UI, because when we were a venture-backed startup, we had to make money at some point. But this is where the project, there's no pressure to make money from the projects. In which case, I think some of there's a lot of stuff that for people who are interested in feature engineering in the UI that can be collaborated on. So this is what I'm excited for the longevity of Hamilton, is that there's a lot of things that could be built for different use cases, and creating a PMC that covers the state space of possible things. I think is going to ensure that we continue to have something healthy here, and without having parts of Hamilton atrophy. But that's also a decision that we can make as a PMC. If there's parts of Hamilton we don't want, we can also reduce scope. But we have so thanks, Yerne and Ryan. So with that, there's there's a bunch of mentors. They don't really get involved in the project, other than helping us tick all the boxes, make sure that we're doing things in an Apache approved way. So this is where I'm gonna probably continue to repeat this a few times, but effectively, this is where the only way that this project grows is through community contributions. So it's through real users using it, contributing it, and putting it forward, right? And so if you are interested in getting more involved, or your company, I think it'd be good and healthy to look at at least joining some of the mailing lists, which I'll kind of get to, and then contributing where it makes sense. This is where there's obviously a lot to Hamilton, and different PMC members have different know different parts of the code base better than others. But this is where with a larger group, we can actually help more folks get on, rather than Elijah and myself just being the bottlenecks. So encourage you all to consider thinking about what you could help out with, or where it makes sense. Okay. So right, and so this is just to I think I've belabored this point. I think I was making these slides late last night, but I think just to mention though that the community is any contributions value, doesn't have to be code, right? And so just there's a lot of documentation and a few other things that just even running meetups and other stuff, right? This is where there's a lot of things that aren't related to code that people can necessarily that aren't related necessarily to code to contribute to, but the main thing that we want to foster is people driving the usage and adoption and knowing how to use Hamilton. So even just hanging out in like Slack on Hamilton help, right, is a contribution. I think that's basically what I wanted to cover on this part. So in terms of how the project is gonna function, right, from a day-to-day. So how Apache is old. It grew up on email listservs. So oh shoot, I didn't add the link here. There is a Elijah, if you want to Google the Apache listserv link to subscribe to and drop it in the chat. So if you are interested, right? So most Apache projects have different email lists. The most appropriate ones is the dev mailing list, where developer discussion should happen, and specifically when we want to release something, it has to go to a vote. The vote happens over email on this email list, and it'll be in the dev thing. And so this is where we need a certain amount of plus ones, right, approvals and things to get any kind of release out. So this is where it's not Elijah and myself cannot just make a release for you and push it out. We actually have to follow a bit more of a process here to getting your release out. This is where if the other email list that people usually have is users, so this is where users would post questions. I think we have people directing people into Slack, and so this is one of the items I need to talk to the mentors on, is potentially surfacing any Hamilton help stuff into the email list. But otherwise, if you bookmark the old repo location, don't worry, you don't have to change it because GitHub will redirect. But Hamilton kind of now lives under the Apache kind of GitHub project. That is the place you continue to file issues, bugs, pull requests. You can obviously put things into mailing lists, but in terms of our project, the issues and stuff that we're tracking, we're using GitHub for that. Docs similarly have also, the URL has changed. I think there might be a few things we need to do to make sure that we haven't broken SEO. But Hamilton.apache.org will be, the splash page and the new landing page for everything for this project. Any questions on this?
One question, Stefan.
Yeah.
The installable target right now is SF Hamilton. That's the name of the library. Are we going to be changing that for Apache, or what's our strategy here?
So this is
998.97 thousand downloads. We're going to get to 1 million today.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. So so Apache likes things to have all the packages, or have an Apache prefix. They do have clauses where it's if it's going to inconvenience users, you don't have to do it. So this is something with the mentors we haven't quite aligned yet, but my assumption is we'll actually be publishing 2 packages. So Apache-Hamilton and then but also updating SF-Hamilton. And so we'll probably over this is where the course of years, because people are using things in enterprise and other stuff. Someone's coming in. So over the course of enterprise, we want to make sure things are stable. So SF Hamilton won't be going away. It's just a question of when and if we want to transition to a package called Apache-Hamilton.
So dual publish for the foreseeable future.
I think that's what we want to do. A bit like,
sure.
scikit-learn did with the people always installed the wrong package name, and they just had a pointer to it. But yeah.
We can also see if like PyPy has any tools to make this type of thing easier.
Yeah. Like the main thing is I'd hate to lose the stats.
Yeah, just ego there.
Yeah. I think that's all I wanted to cover on project communication. I guess, yeah. Ryan, are you there? Have you? I don't know. Yeah. Any questions here or?
I have one question. When you say, are there going to be fixed release cycles, or is it basically when somebody wants a release, then you send an email into the mailing list and then everybody has to vote on it?
Yeah, basically any release needs to be voted on, has to like, I guess, I think the process is basically it takes, it has to be open for a certain amount of hours. So I think it might be 72, so it might be like 3 days. So this is where at most we could probably do 2 releases a week.
I propose that we start the process of a release tonight because there's 51 commits since the last one, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can get out.
Yeah. So this is where, I mean, the main point is like to give people time to, I think, download the branch, run tests, validate, right, certain things. And so this is, I mean, that's a good question for the dev mailing list because the mentors are on it, right? But otherwise, there's a lot of documentation on the on the Apache release process. So it's a little bit of just becoming more familiar with it. But at a minimum, I think it means that we could release once every 3 days, basically, if we're following the what Apache says to do.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Apache also has, takes into security consideration a few other things. So for each release, this is where some things have to be validated. And what I found is that, the Apache Foundation is very Java based. And so the Python stuff is a little newer to some of them, but thankfully there's enough, Python projects that we can mirror off of. But just, I guess, an insight to the process. So when will our first release be? So this is where we have, so Elijah, this is where I have some issues up. And so part of it is, having correct license and notices in the actual pip installable kind of package, right? There's a few things where Apache does not like a few things to be things always have to have the right licenses. So if we were to pull in libraries, so in Python, thankfully, we don't have this issue, apart from JavaScript, which we do with the UI. There are,
before the first release.
Yeah, we need to do these.
Okay. We can't do the release until we change the network package.
No, so that is for the UI.
Okay, cool. So we can do.
This is where for SF Hamilton, and so this is where just starting a chat on the dev mailing list. Elijah can would help. I guess there's a few other things of since we have so many packages, each of them has to go through the same process, right? Part of this is aligning with the mentors as to when you go to here, basically they want releases and tags to match up to artifacts, so things that were actually published. So and so source they want source releases to match things that are packaged. I think this is where Elijah, we just need to align with the mentors, whether it's, hey, can we have a source release that and just say that this package is blessed versus all the others, because if we need to bless all the others, then this first release is going to take a bit of time.
So this is to talk to PJ about. We just emailed the dev list today.
Yeah, and then the other is there's a bunch of things we need to do. So if someone actually wants to create a splash page for Hamilton that looks like other Apache projects, that'd be lovely. We're currently using Sphinx and Mist to do our docs, and so there's a little bit of someone really I guess the others, we could create a logo that has the incubator and the star, the Hamilton star inside, right? So this is where there's the only thing that's blocking us from a release right now is just getting through some of the Apache bureaucracy, or like learning the process. I shouldn't be so dismissive of it.
Yeah, I mean, this will really set us up for success. So I think it's just a matter of getting this right. And then I think we get to like ideally 2-week cadences. Some are patch, some are minor. We're not gonna have any major release for years, so for a while. So I think we can just, if we just get on that cadence, then we have a few new PRs every time we get it going. That's a good way to keep it. Also, PR 1337.
Yeah, no, yeah. So with that, so other than getting kind of everything crossed off to be able to kind of release under Apache, this is where there's a bunch of stuff. So there's a bunch of pending commits we haven't released. So a bunch of it's work from Charles, I think, and Thierry as well has some work around how can we. He has some interesting. He's been using Marimo and wants to sees some things that Hamilton could actually work really well with Marimo. Should we add a few things to it? But this is where there is we've added. There's quite a lot of surface area to Hamilton, and so what to improve, what to change, what to add kind of adapters for, and certain things like this is where there is a lot of directions, and so this is if you have issues or other things. This is where starting a mailing list thread either on users or dev or something. If you want to discuss something, is probably the way to go. I mean, you could use GitHub discussions. I forget whether that goes through to the mailing lists because we actually have a notifications mailing list that like notifies us of everything that happens on GitHub. But I mean, issued. I guess as we're figuring out this process, I think my recommendation will change. But at the moment, it's use what's familiar to you. So if you want to suggest something, GitHub issue or GitHub discussion is fine, or starting a thread on the email list. Yana or Ryan, did you guys have any things you're excited to want to do, or I don't know, or extend?
Definitely interested in building the graph from functions. It's something we've actually switched over to, a bit more explicit, saying, hey, I just want a DAG of these functions.
Yeah, I think we've been finding that a lot of people for like in a notebooky, or at least like for people using Marimo, the notion of a module is a little less clear, and so being able to do that. But yeah,
I mean, the one thing that's interesting is Hamilton is very like declarative, right? You write it's supposed to be sort of rooted in code, but there are plenty of use cases like Marimo and like a whole bunch of ones that might require a little more dynamic construction. So decorators have been the approach to that. But it's not crazy to see sort of another path in almost. And creating from functions is a nice like medium way of doing it. But you could imagine that we have like in longer term, you have this like underlying graph construct library that can do whatever graph stuff you need, and then different APIs into it. And Hamilton is the Hamilton as it currently is the primary one. But you could imagine a more sort of procedural way potentially of creating it. It would be varying very much from the original goal of Hamilton, but might be a good way to bring in more things. So this could kind of inform those further efforts in the future.
Cool. Nice. And so this is basically all I had time. So this is where I guess we have 20ish minutes. So if anyone on the call wants to surface something, I could write something down, or wants to discuss anything. The floor's open, and if you can't unmute, let me know, but I think everyone can unmute. And if not, that's okay. We can end it early as well.
Hi, Stefan.
I guess, yeah.
Leonard?
Yeah, Leonard.
Someone else started speaking.
Yeah, I was going to say Mingdao. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, is the VS Code extension the code base, the source code, is it within the same repo?
Yeah. So the so under Hamilton the repo is kind of where is it? It is docs DevTools. So there is under DevTools is a VS Code extension, right? And so this is the source code for it. That answers your question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, which is I want to say the VS Code extension, I guess, relates a little bit to the LSP, the LSP server, which is kind of how VS Code kind of does things. So it's the language server protocol. So you might need to look at both. Leonard.
Hello. So yeah, I guess a noob question is inbound. I have been, programming professionally for some 7 years now, and before that studying, and most of that I have been very much into the whole open source community stuff. But as far as code contributions go, that always just seems so daunting to me that just how do you get started? Like, what's the preferred way? I know this is a very vague and broad question, but any kind of guideline in that sense would go a long way. Do I just go to issues and pick one that I have encountered and try to bracket it, or what's the preferred way of getting involved? Specifically.
Yeah, I think great question. So in terms of the mechanics, so hopefully developer setup is still gives you a bit of an idea of how to potentially work on something. So in terms of under issues, this is where we've been, I guess, a little slow, but if there's some things that potentially are tagged with good first issue, should technically be a little bit of the simpler ones, or maybe the better defined ones to start with. But usually it's people look at an issue and say, hey, can I work on this? And so the process I've been working on has just been kind of assigning something there. This is where if you see an issue and someone it's assigned to, but it hasn't moved on it for months, usually probably means that they've forgotten about it or didn't get to it. So in which case, happy to reassign things. If you have an issue yourself or other things, this is where happy to provide guidance where it makes sense. The other thing that I found with people with open source contributions is, the thing that we essentially as the PMC will be dealing with is trying to match people's kind of skill set and things they want to learn with the kind of task at hand. And so that is really the thing to help triangulate on, depending on people's experience, whether it's the first contribution. I've had to deal with help people set up. This is how you create a pull request on GitHub type thing, is from summer of code students who want to contribute to more experienced people, where it's just actually we need to talk more about the inner depths of some part of the Hamilton code base to be able to define or guide. So I would say claim an issue, and then this is where providing us with whatever information to help triangulate how to explain something at the level you need it is my recommendation for it's something that helps us figure out whether this task is appropriate or not, or otherwise. But
one thing I want to add for more experienced contributors like you, the thing that I've found that turns this feeling from intractable to tractable is if I'm running the library, I want to first download it, run it locally off of my version of it, make a change that breaks it or changes some behavior in some way. And the moment that I can attach that change to my actual experience is the moment it all starts working together, and then everything gets much easier to work with. Because if you stop treating a library as a black box and you actually open it up, that's the thing that really can help you start developing. So I would recommend whatever you're doing, if you see some behavior that's odd, or if you want to understand how something works, find the place in the code that you add a raise value error to do delete me, and see that through, and then the whole thing gets much simpler to work with, because then you can look at the stack trace, you can stick a debugger in there and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually think I did remove an exception in Hamilton a couple of months ago while I was debugging something. But yeah, okay, that makes sense. I guess my kind of the question behind the question, or the concern behind the question, is, how do I prevent my, I suppose, imposter syndrome from, I have this feeling that, oh, if I do something but it's not perfect from the get-go, then it's just a burden for someone to review, for someone to go through the back and forth of the communication. But I guess, I mean, that's part of the community. That's why we're
Honestly,
all here
two
to
things.
talk
One,
through.
Everybody who's running this project will very much appreciate anything, regardless of whether it's good or not, but it'll be good. The other is just go in and have the confidence of a over-promoted executive. So walk in, say this is a great change, and then if you have that confidence, it'll just kind of filter its way out. I've seen this work many times before.
Yeah, I mean, so this is where for the PMC to help us all align, I think part of this process will probably just have to align on the guidelines in terms of code quality, or Python kind of standard, right? Because with Python there's easy ways to hack something in, but there's also potentially nicer longer term ways. And so we've generally at least erred a little bit on the Hamilton code base to try to do something a little more longer term that's easier to maintain and not necessarily the fastest route potentially. But this is where
absolutely.
If we have a good design, then hopefully the fastest route is the best route. And so that's also something that is good to surface as well. But as I said, it kind of depends on the change and kind of what happens. And this gets to what I said kind of earlier in terms of if we can align more on the issue and the things up front, right, then the downstream should be easier. And so the only place where I've seen this is the challenge with whereas there's something where the issue maybe wasn't as specific, it left a little bit of ambiguity, but it was interpreted very differently, right? And so that is the kind of the case where hey, this change was good, but actually no, it was due because the issue wasn't as specific enough. That's probably the only case where I found having to backtrack. But otherwise, we're excited to help people. So I want to say my emphasis would be let's just aligning on what the issue is first will help everything. So.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to have everybody on board. Excited for this new chapter. It will move a little slower, but it'll be in the right direction, and it'll guarantee a longer, wonderful, exciting life for Hamilton. So I think this is absolutely the right call.
Yeah. Go ahead, Minda.
I have another question. You mentioned about verifying the release. So how do I get started if I want to help out with that?
Yeah. So this is where if you know how Python software is packaged, right, that this is where so the Hamilton repo has a PyProject TOML. So we have one in the central root, which is basically just builds SF Hamilton. And then we have different subdirectories here that build different packages. And so when we're verifying something, we want to verify that this package or whatever that package is built actually runs and works as intended. And so this is where as part of the PMC and part of the tasks, right, we could actually build more infrastructure to make this easier. Right now, for example, what I do is I have a little script that runs a sample of some of these, examples, and just kind of spot checks to make sure that there's no exceptions, no errors, and things kind of look as expected. And so that's really, to verify releases, we're verifying the behavior that it installs, that the examples we expect we haven't broken, the main examples of things. Hopefully unit tests and integration tests will catch the main ones, but this is where there's a lot of things that Hamilton integrates with, which could potentially change. The biggest thing that we have to fix is other libraries changing their interfaces. and breaking something. And so it's just a bit of a triage of like, hey, was this a code change for us, or did dependency change? Because with libraries, the best practice is not to pin library versions of things. If anything, we should probably have major version pins. So like because a major version change would mean an interface change, but that is basically the task. Is you'd check out the branch, build things locally, because there's a few ways to do it. Validate something. The examples. This doesn't. Yeah, this is. I know that's for CI, but does that? I mean, help
Yeah.
this question, or you had an idea of something to add? Yeah.
Yeah. I got an idea. Thank you.
Oh, I got a follow-up question because I just saw here. Can we start dropping Python dependencies like 3.8, 3.9?
So I guess we generally want to follow Python's end of life. So like I think 3.8 is the end of life this year, if I recall. If it hasn't already.
3.8 was
Yeah,
9 this year, right?
But I think NumPy even and Pydantic and stuff like that is already 3.10 plus. Like they're dropping support.
Oh yeah, I mean,
lower ends.
amazing.
3.9 dies this year in a few months. So 3.10.
Because it's really painful to fix the CI tests for.
Yeah.
3.10
No, I mean,
3.13. Do we have 3.13 support yet?
I don't think we turned
All
it
right,
on.
we know that because 3.13 is now in or 3.13 is in pre-release bug fix, or is in bug fix phase.
Yeah,
So it's not like it's like bug fix, security, then end of life. Right?
Yeah.
So we can so it's in bug fix phase, meaning it's semi-stable.
Yeah, this is but yeah, Nate, I mean, this is if you think it's a good idea, go ahead.
Yeah, I would definitely say 3.10 plus. But
Yeah,
we can keep it at 3.9.
We can't kill 3.9 until October, I would say.
Yeah.
Because that's when it's officially end of life. I don't feel comfortable killing it until it's actually end of life, but
so this is where like this discussion right now, that this is where this is where for the benefit of the community, Apache like to have it in mailing lists and stuff, right?
Yeah,
so,
we'll put it there.
But like this is where I think we can at least do 3.8.
If you don't mind sending a quick email being like, hey, let's discuss the end of life conversion support, just like that, something to the dev mailing list, that would be nice to get the discussion started. If you want to send that like now or right after that.
Awesome.
Cool. And in addition, we didn't talk about it. We also have the Burr project too. So if you're interested in that, reach out. We can get you started on that too, and then we'll have.
I'm sorry, what?
So if you're interested in more general graph stuff, so Hamilton actually has a sister project called Burr, for those who don't know which. So Hamilton only does DAGs and is very more staticky. But if you have simulations or with the hype today, agents, right? Burr is a slightly high level construct than Hamilton. They both work well together. But if you need something with loops and conditional branching, that isn't at the level of Hamilton, right? You have less nodes and less branches, then Burr is a good thing, and so that's also with Apache as well.
Cool.
Well, with that, if we don't have anything, we can end 10 minutes early. Appreciate everyone who showed up. Appreciate the questions, and anyone listening online. Would love to see you on the mailing list or sending us issues or PRs. Thanks.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much, folks.
Thank you.
Wonderful day.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Bye.